Co-creation on tämän päivän koko teema, ja nyt pääsemme taas kuulemaan yhden esimerkin tästä. Pyydetään Glen Koskela comeback lavalle, hän tulee tänne takaisin ainakin. Ja sitten, now we can change language again, just for the interpreters. Wolfgang Thissen, Executive Vice President and CFO of Valky Group. And he's actually, interesting detail, collector of historical analog cameras, stopping counting at 200 pieces, which is a bit of a feat. Since 2013 in today's role as CFO, and happy to play with figures again. Die Bühne gehört Ihnen. Willkommen.
Vielen Dank.
Ja Glen takaisin lavalle.
Danke.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, this is an interesting setup. A presentation we would not be able to ourselves. And once with Wolfgang, we discussed of a presentation about co-creation. We needed to come up with a title of it. And we started to imagine the kind of a poster that the movie would have. That two distinct companies that are very different from each other meet, start to think outside of the box, and then they begin to invest in unknown. That would kind of create a nice movie poster. Wolfgang, CFO, Valky Group, welcome.
Thank you.
It has been a pleasure to work in this kind of a co-creation project jointly. And the reason why the two of us are here is that we are explaining you what have we done, how have we done it, and what was the experience, both pros and cons, that we found during the path, since we were both sponsors on both sides to this activity. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Would you like to say something?
Happy to be here. First time that I'm in this hall, even if I'm working now 24 years or nearly 24 years for a Finnish company. So great to be here and great to join the session and explain a bit about what we did. As such, maybe I have a few words about Valky to tell a bit. I assume that Valky is known in Finland as it's a Finnish-based company founded roughly in the 30s. We are producing, let's call it multi-layer laminates and protective packaging solutions. So everything is around combining materials with paper, aluminium, board, scrim, etc. And we do this on the platform of extrusion coating. We have 10 plants, mostly in Europe, one bridgehead in China, and also one small satellite in Russia. And roughly 900 persons are creating a turnover of more than 300 million. And we used this one of our products, or one of our topic, which we will see later, as in a quite interesting content to visualize or personalize the message I wanted to bring across in this Activate campaign.
Thank you. We'll start first by giving you an insight into a method that we have used for co-creation and co-innovation, and that also in this project was applied. It also shows the fact that although this fuzzy logic, innovation, creation is pretty much of creativity, thinking outside of the box, at the back of it, there's a very organized process that allows to yield value of all the time spent on that given activity. And I do kind of assign every argument that says that IT service companies are not typically the leaders of bringing the innovation in front of their customers. And specifically in this kind of a setup, we have this method. Valky, of course, was not aware of the contents of that at the level of detail and kind of a organized pattern that we have for it, starting from how do we secure the sponsors on a given type of activity, move into the next phase where we want to agree on the scope, linking that to a customer's real business challenges. And we don't talk about Windows Server version upgrades or any other elements in conjunction of co-innovation, these are all business challenges. How do we kind of move from over there to identify the kind of capabilities that we could then explore, and how and when needed we can bring in crowdsourcing as a mechanism of responding to the idea capturing phase, to go into evaluation, towards prototyping, and then finally towards adoption. And that, of course, is not necessarily clearly stated once we first contacted Valky, since the kind of a promise of what this delivers is uncertain. There is no promise. It requires definitely a courage. And I don't know how you felt that when you first heard that an IT company would like to discuss about innovation. How was it?
Yes, I can still remember the call from our ICT director who asked, and I think Jaakko is sitting somewhere, most likely he has hidden himself somewhere in the backstage here, asking, are we interested in an innovation workshop with Fujitsu? And my first reaction was, again, a new ICT project or something like that. And I thought, what is this about? And I guess most of us know such sessions when a business partner is asking for some kind of development workshop. It's not about the customer. It's typically about the company providing the development workshop. So, and from that perspective, clearly I can say that this Activate is something totally different. It is about Valky. It is about our business challenges or issues, and it's not about, in first instance, of course. At some stage later on might be that it's your business, but in the beginning it's about the customer. And I thought, we just give it a try. We don't know what the outcome will be. The outcome is unknown. Still today it's unknown. I can say this already now. But we just give it a try. There is nothing to lose. And so it was quite easy to collect a small group of people from different functions. And I think we started the discussion after summer. And so the group was easy to find and collect. To find a slot in our calendars was already much more difficult. So finally in November we were sitting together then and starting the project, so to say.
Yes. And you can imagine once you look into your annual calendars, maybe it is the Outlook. And then if you separate there with a color, the amount that you spend annually on anything that is allowing you to think outside of the box in order to come up with some new ideas towards your own organization, my gut feeling is that actually that is a very limited amount of time that organizations typically spend on it. It's not as easily measurable, and there are no driven or given objectives often stated for it in order to kind of facilitate the intake of that amount of time. So of course in our engagement model we also try to reduce the time that a customer needs to spend on it and do activities at the back on our own. So the first workshop you mentioned was really where we started to kind of agree, and we wanted to understand Valky. In our view, the key was that we would have the ability to talk to business people. We meet a lot of the IT organizations, but it is the business that in this context actually is the counterpart.
That's fully correct. So we collected business people at that time, a small group of business people going there to this event, and now I have to smile a bit when it's written here, digital. I can assure you that this workshop was not digital. Definitely not. It was really, really analog, and it was about flip chart and pens and colored stickers, etc., etc. So really, this is not about a presentation. This was about what is in, let's say, the brains of the people coming there, the persons coming there and thinking about the business issue or a business challenge. And I have to state, it's not so easy to open yourself to a business partner when you have to talk about a business challenge, a changing market, or different behavior of customers or markets. So it's something you have to open yourself, or Valky had to open to talk openly. And of course, we went there with a target to achieve something, not just to have a coffee and something else. So it was about achieving something. So we wanted to deliver a real issue to the campaign team. And I think we managed to find, after roughly 4 or 5 hours, one main challenge we believe is essential for us. And it was around innovation, actually.
Yes. And that is the goal of the first real meeting. It is really analog, and it's face-to-face. It is a discussion. It is about openness on both sides on it. We are not there to kind of look into what can we sell. We are there to understand more too roughly what are the real challenges that are there in the business to come in the years ahead. And then looking into, do we have the ability to jointly prioritize out of all these kind of business challenges? Or we definitely didn't understand all of them in the level of depth that is needed. We are not an expert in the given vertical. But we needed to come up as an outcome of the first workshop with a very clearly defined business challenge. So there's a deliverable of this. And that is what then we started to formulate. So the campaign question allows us to kind of communicate the select business challenge that after the first workshop we ended up with. And it's stated over there on the slide. It allows us to brief the challenge to others that were not in that meeting room. But that definitely is a very crucial element, and it is definitely something that is not easy to define into a single sentence. It requires a lot of effort in the end to kind of have the ability to expose that information, and of course you need to also give some information outside of Valky as a group, that what are the issues of the company to work with. So I bet that in your own team you had to decide upon how openly can that be expressed.
Yes, that's true. As I stated earlier, we had the clear goal to achieve something. So we went there really open, and I hope it can be confirmed from your side that we were talking openly about issues. So this is one out of, I don't know how many were listed, 10 or 15 topics.
Yes.
So
yes.
we tried to focus this down or narrow it down to one. And I think maybe that's not even a valid topic only for Valky. I think it's a general topic that markets are changing, and you need to have the information about these changes as early as possible. So
then we decided to do even more. We understood that in order to move forward, the people that would probably have the best ideas against how to resolve the challenge are not in that meeting room. So we needed to have an ability to communicate that very clearly defined business challenge to others. And in order to communicate that, it means that we need to give it a face. The face communicates that extremely strongly. And that kind of a clear challenge was then moved into a video.
yeah, I still wonder why it was my face, but anyhow, I think there would have been other options. So it was a quite interesting task to generate a 90-second video clip around what is Valky about, a 4 hours innovation workshop, explaining examples, product examples, what has changed and maybe why it has changed, and to put everything in 90 seconds. That was more than a challenge, and thanks to the Fujitsu team, we managed at the end to bring, was it 93 seconds onto a hard drive or a stick. And I have to say, quite openly, it took much more than 1 or 2 or 3 minutes to create the 90 seconds. So it was quite an interesting session. But it really is some kind, you had to focus on a few sentences. So it was quite interesting still. I hope it helped the team to generate more ideas.
In our view, this is one of the critical success factors for our next phase. We had already decided that out of the kind of a selected campaign or the method of the campaign for this given business challenge, that we would use crowdsourcing. We knew that the knowledge needed to resolve the problem is not necessarily near. It could be far away. And we knew that we have experts across the Fujitsu group that could actually help us to understand how to tackle that challenge. So in order to succeed in that, this 90-second video was really crucial. It allowed us to kind of communicate that very quickly, multiple hours of workshopping, discussions, background information, explanations of a challenge, put into a crisp one single sentence in a written form, complemented with a 90-second of a video to explain that. And I'll challenge everybody in the room to kind of do the same crisp explanation of the most critical element in your business as sharply as Valki was able to do to us in the end. And I do really appreciate, because your face gave a method for us to do the next steps. And a couple of elements of this tool that we then used. So this happened then after the first workshop, and there must have been kind of a blurred expectations of what might happen next. So what we started to do is a set of initial preparations on Fujitsu side to set up a site and a tool set towards which we can connect the customers' challenges and ideas to the relevant technical specialists and teams across our group. And that allows us kind of bring the unconnected areas of expertise. There might be some people in our kind of organization working in France, United States, in the UK, or in Sweden, or in Finland, that have experience of the industry, that have an experience of another industry, but pretty much similar kind of a challenge, or might have been participating in a team of resolving or doing a solution that might contribute with an idea against this. So we prepared internally, we have an innovation tool set for it, where we can establish these kind of campaigns. And the video was the first thing that everybody logging into that actually knew. We also needed to kind of make a selection of how do we define the business challenge. Over here, the video was very strong, but the kind of a challenge, when defined clearly, provides a way to co-innovate and co-create with our customers on a given challenge precisely. And the video was used. We decided upon the time of the campaign. We decided upon the duration, how long will we begin to crowdsource and bring in other stakeholders into the game. We need to do it digitally. We were not able to travel across the world because of that. How do we roll this out? How do we launch a campaign like that? And how do we excite people to join that? So the research and development capability was then linked. We identified a number of people in our organization. I think that in total it was 280 across our company. Decided upon who do we specifically want to invite to contribute to the campaign. What kind of experience do they need to possess? What kind of knowledge should they have? Where from another kind of a potential person should come in order to create a good kind of a richness of expertise into the discussions that are kind of coming. So harnessing the expertise of the specialists and the crowds with our kind of own software used for it, and then the actual method of running it. So we decided upon 3+1 weeks. We set out weekly emails. We wanted to keep the momentum up that the video actually ignited in the very beginning. We wanted to follow the flow of the ideas. We wanted to kind of check that the kind of processes from start to finish with an orderly manner. And after that, we ended up with the results of that, of all the discussions with an open attitude, letting our people to kind of think out loud to create a response to Valki. And at the back, after all that 3 + 1 week process, this is what we ended up with. We ended up with 36 ideas. There had been, well, the exit number was 273 users that were invited in that. We get number of votes on it, we get a lot of people that were kind of participating in dialogue of it, but the essence in the end was that we had a basket of ideas. How that single sentence of a business challenge could be resolved. How could we contribute and help Valky to solve the challenge or at least solve a proportion of it. And this is then the outcome that the campaign ended up with. What it continued, again at the back, and I don't know how you experience, I mean, this was a period of silence from our side to you. We went, well, everything happened at the back. Workshop was there, kind of weird situation. Business challenges discussed, one focused, defined, videoed, and then we kind of went away into our own office. I don't know how you felt that.
I could relax a bit. Very easy. Now I think we had the workshop in November, and then before Christmas, somewhere, I don't know, 1 week before, we managed then to take the video, mostly because of my traveling schedule, most likely. Yes. So there was a lot of activities within 6 weeks, 4, 5, 6 weeks, and then Christmas, and then the campaign started, and all of a sudden it was totally silent. So luckily we had then, as a sponsor, the program manager kept us heavily informed, which I think is quite essential. You need to keep momentum, even if just from Valky we had a few persons involved. You need to keep the spirit alive, that they don't forget about it and are still interested in this exercise. So we knew that the evaluation workshop will come, so there was a regular communication from Fujitsu to Valky, and also inside we tried to keep the key persons in the loop, which is, I think, quite important. Communication can solve a lot.
Yes. We communicate a lot internally to keep the momentum up, to ensure that we get that crowd to contribute to these ideas. And then just before we actually had the second workshop, we started to make a decision that we need to do pre-evaluation of all the ideas. And for that we need to define an evaluation criteria. And now we needed to begin to think a little bit more, not exactly, and we didn't probably succeed completely at all on it, but to think more like a customer would think in their own business meetings, in terms of how would they look into the evaluation. Does different stakeholders play kind of a role on it? Would the different phases and elements that are there towards a innovation or idea play a role? And that kind of allowed us to evaluate the alternatives based on the performance with respect to the kind of criteria that we had discussed a little bit. We were not probably perfect on this in terms of formulating the matrix, but what it ended up with was actually that we prepared for the second analog workshop. So we had a meeting again.
Yes, as we see. Partly digital and partly analog still. So we had to wait roughly 4 or 5 weeks to see what has happened inside, in the background during this time. And I can tell you we all were really interested to see what kind of ideas were coming up. We only knew, before we went there, we only knew it's 36 ideas, not more. And we were all eager to see, is there something essential in what we are missing in the business, or is it more the standard ideas we also have? And so we went there with 5 persons, or 4 actually, at the end only, and were just walking along the walls. The 36 ideas, some were eliminated. Nowadays we have them, but they were skipped a bit, and we had 15 idea families, maybe, like that. So we went them all through, walked along, reading them all, and repeating it again. So we had a few hours of fine-tuning and selecting certain ideas. And at the end of the workshop, not the end of Activate campaign, we decided then to have four ideas selected to be followed and continued further. And it's a bit funny, one idea at least Glen tried to make us believe, arrived at the day of the workshop. He was even translating it into English because of my limited Finnish skills. It was a bit funny. I still doubt that it was happening like that. But
Ville, are you in the room? Not raising at least any hand that I can see. Yeah, there was an idea that came in the precise morning where the second workshop came, so we needed to quickly document and translate that into English so that we would have that as part, because we felt that that might be something of a value to show. Now, on these different,
and this idea was one of the 4 selected. That's the funny part. It arrives last second, and then it's actually the one we are working heavily on still. And so basically this idea is around connecting market events, triggering changes towards the moment when the change is happening. And here we are still now working together on to find the right way to make this really happen. Because I think it's a very interesting topic. If we can make this happen, it will help us, or mostly our customers, to be faster in innovation or bringing products to the market.
In this presentation, which is a story about co-creation, what the process was and how we actually started that, what were the activities required from both parties to end up with these 4 ideas that are now kind of maturing forward. You would probably get more clearer understanding of it if we did, but we will not expose any of those 35 ideas more than just give you the insight towards the challenge. The ideas are proprietary. The 4 ideas that we will kind of continue with, and the contents of the different concepts that are on the walls over here are by design not exposed here. Because this is, of course, there's a level of trust in between partnerships in co-innovation as well, and at a certain point this is more tuned towards a given customer and their challenges. But I do believe that the 35 or so ideas, there were some that you could drop off the list quite quickly. There were some that addressed the challenge in a similar manner, so there was a need to cluster them. That work probably partially continues once we begin to learn and add elements to the 4 ideas as we mature with them. But the essence really was that after the period, there was a kind of slow start after the summer discussions, first workshop Novemberish, campaign starting in January, then quickly 3+1 weeks, second workshop evaluation, 4 ideas to pull forward. The accumulated time spent is definitely something of a learning. So that was the story in terms of co-creation. And now some conclusions, findings and learnings from our side on it. Maybe I'll let you start.
Yep, I can. First of all, I'm really happy that we decided to go for it. That I think is very good, and I can only encourage others to, if they have the possibility, to think a bit out of the box by doing such cooperation work. And especially when you talk about time spent for Valky, we have not spent so much time in it. We talk about days, maybe, and thinking then about 250 persons involved in answering. I just think about a meeting would be the right place here to have such a 2 days meeting to go through such ideas. But of course, this is a quite efficient way, so I can only say I'm very happy that we went for it. That's the first conclusion. The second one, thinking about 40 ideas or 36 ideas would have been very nice to have them a day earlier and not reading a page and add the next one on, and at the end you have forgotten what was on the first page. So that is something from the process where one could consider to be a bit more proactive. On the other hand, you read them, you have to decide. It's not so bad now and then to have your more or less your stomach feelings in the decision which idea to choose. So.
Yeah, but I agree that maybe before the second workshop, revealing the selected roughly 15 of them, letting you sleep over with after reading them would have helped. A learning that we'll definitely take home as this. But I do kind of believe that we allowed to kind of run a co-creation activity that compared to the results and the outcome of that is valuable compared to against the time that has actually been spent on it. So there were 2 analog workshops, some emails in between, long kind of a buy-in cycle in the autumn to get into the game that why would we invest in unknown, and we still are not there. In my kind of honest brains, I would not call this an innovation yet. We haven't taken any of those ideas into your market yet. But we definitely do believe that we have identified a challenge that was not tackled before, and hopefully we have created ideas that allow to respond against that challenge in an appropriate manner, and it could well be that that would never have appeared as a specified need without this process. So if that delivers business value, that is then the value of co-creation as well.
So the journey as such, already without the end result, the journey as such was good. That was fruitful.
Yes.
I think, as a communications person, I think that, of course, it's that's sort of the classic definition, classic Greek definition of dialogue, which is actually not a zero-sum game, not to mention a minus-sum game. It's a plus-sum game, which means that at the end of the dialogue, both should be enriched together. So not only sort of, a few richer things there, a few gains there, but, some sort of a co-enrichment. That's the idea.
For us, at least, to me, it leaves an echo that every time we discuss with Valky, we know more in terms of your real business challenges. So it reminds us of them every time we meet, that these are the essential elements that we need to resolve. There are a lot of IT elements at the back that are there as a runtime element of the business as usual, but these are the areas where clear value could be delivered.
But the biggest challenge, except, trying to explain things in Finnish, you should have tried Swedish. That could have been a bit easier.
Thank you.
But the biggest challenge, what was it? If you have just to conclude with sort of one point.
The biggest challenge in there is the decision to open yourself fully to a business partner. If you want to achieve something, you need to you put the problems on the table. And I think that is not always easy, because you talk about a business case behind.
Yeah, you're afraid of revealing too much?
You are revealing quite a lot. And today we have limited, of course, a bit, trying to tell a bit, but not the full, let's say, content. I think that is the essential part. You need to be ready to open yourself. If you don't do this, and it's more, let's say, a scratching of the surface, it will not work out.
Okay.
Because it's not giving anything then.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Questions, comments? We've got the mic here, Finnish Innovation, Catchbox. You should try it. Anyone?
Jouni Auer and PTT. What was the reward for, or the incentive for the participants of Fujitsu in this case? Was it only the joy of collaboration, or was there some reward?
From Fujitsu side, that is now I use the expression that you want that we shouldn't use. That is a very good question. So it is not easy to pull through in a corporate environment that is kind of fiscally oriented, a activity where the measurables are not as clearly defined as you would like them to be. This is why the title is Invest in Unknown. I have a strong belief that co-creation allows us to deliver deeper value to our customers. And once we have a pathway of how to kind of engage more properly with our customers to help them, I also believe that there will be a payback. In what form, on what level, on what type, is yet unknown. We just do strongly believe that if we are there with the relevance to our customers, there is a relevance to us as well. We don't yet know what the actual payback. Actually, we are spending a little bit more time probably than Valky on this. We are taking at our cost, but we strongly believe that that is the right way to do. It's not predefining a solution and trying to argue to the customer that is what you need. It is to learn and respond.
Remember Rumsfeld's, there are known knowns, unknown knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns.
Yes.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
Questions?
Yeah, guten Tag. But I ask in German or in English. I think in English is better.
Yeah, we're very liberal, so anything goes. I mean, that's like Deutsch, English.
It's great to hear that you took the trusted path toward partnerships, and I think that this really shows a lot of courage and innovation from your part. But how do you see? How often would you take this encouraging step? Once a year, or perhaps twice a year, or every twice a year, or only when you have a new business challenge?
That's more than a valid question. To be honest, I have not really thought about it, because the first phase, the first part, or the first trial is not ready yet. I think, as such, we are living in an extremely fast-changing market. Most likely we all, nobody can exclude himself or herself from this. Markets are changing, so we will have business challenges basically all the time.
So it could be an ongoing process, actually.
I just wanted to say this. For us, I would be ready to consider such way of working as an ongoing process. So not having annual planning, business planning, to just more focus on the activity behind, to find ways to adapt to the market in a fast way when we take our challenge here, and to have it as an ongoing process. Actually, we are now considering to do this with our customers.
Yes.
Right. So just trying to move ahead in the supply chain and get closer to the end customers, end users at the end. We are quite in an early stage of the supply chain, and it would be good to be closer to the end users at the end. So basically ourselves, if we talk about our consumer packaging, so we all are using detergent boxes, or we are maybe eating frozen food or fish fingers or whatever. Everything is packed somehow. So for us it's important to collect market info to understand, just to understand, and take the right conclusions.
Gentlemen, thank you for this process on stage as well, and this dialogue. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.